Hey everyone, Anya here from the blog gabledhome.com, and today I'm gonna share with you my absolute favorite crumb cake recipe. So in English it's called crumb cake, and if you know anything about me, you know that I grew up in Germany where the same kind of cake is called Streuselkuchen or sometimes called Streusel if you anglicize it. Sorry for all my German viewers. And I love this recipe because I don't really like to do different doughs and different preparations, and I like things that are quick and that are simple and delicious. So I'm going to share this recipe with you. It's equally delicious. Today I'm using blueberries. The other day I made it with plums. I'm going to talk a little bit later in the video about certain adaptations you're going to have to make for different fruits. But let's go ahead and make this cake. For this recipe, I love using a food processor. However, if you don't have that, you can always use one of these pastry blenders. It might take a little bit longer. This is actually much faster for most of the part, so we're going to use that. However, you will need to grind up your hazelnuts. I'm using hazelnuts, they're also sometimes called filberts. If you can't find filberts, or if you don't have any way to grind them, you can absolutely use almond meal for that. We'll put this in here. This is about 3/4, probably closer to a cup, but most of my recipes are somewhat flexible, especially on the nuts. I like to go a little heavier. So we'll put this in here. And this is going to be really loud, so we're going to play some music. Sometimes the nuts like to creep in the creases up there. I'm going to show you what I've done here, which I absolutely love. I have not made it very uniformly into a flour almost, but I have some little nut pieces in here, which I think absolutely adds to the recipe. However, do what you like best. So we'll keep this in here. That's the beauty of this recipe, that you can all make it in your food processor. To that, we'll add 2 cups of flour. This recipe is not very sweet. I'm adding 1/2 cup of sugar. Now, if you have very ripe fruit or not so much, you can always change and adapt the amount of sugar. If you like your cakes a little sweeter, you can go probably up to 3/4. I like the cakes not so sweet, so 1/2 cup of sugar. Add a 1/4 tablespoon of salt. Adding salt to sweet recipes always brings out the sweetness and adds a bit of depth and doesn't make the taste quite so flat. That's why I like adding just a bit of salt to it. Now I'll just blend the dry ingredients up really quick. I can also pull some. I just got the butter out of the refrigerator. You want to add cold butter, 1/8 ounces, it's about 1 cup, and I will cut this up in chunks. and add the chunks directly into the food processor. Now the Kerrygold is absolutely my favorite butter. I also make my own, but I don't have enough to make cakes with it on top of eating butter on our bread. You can use whatever butter you like. I always suggest use the best ingredients you can afford. To that I add about a good teaspoon of vanilla extract. It's really easy to make your own. And this is the part that you can either do with the pastry cutter or in the food processor, which is so easy. This actually came together really nicely. As you can see, I have a dough that is somewhat lumpy. Sometimes when, depending on the type of flour you use, the dough is too dry, you can always add a little bit of ice water. I have ice cubes here and I brought that out, but I don't actually need it. So that's the beauty of this recipe. I'm gonna stir it up just a little bit more, but it's just perfect as it is. I'll move this out of the way. I'm gonna make this crumb cake in this spring form pan, and I like to use parchment paper on the bottom. It makes taking the cake out a little easier, and you simply cut out a piece of parchment paper big enough, place the side over it, and then close it, and you can cut this off or simply fold it under. And then I use just a little bit of avocado oil to oil the sides. Just makes taking the cake out later a little bit easier. Now we will take about half of the dough and put that in here. A little bit more. And we gently press it down. And then we'll add the blueberries right on top. And feel free to use as much or as little fruit as you like. This is not quite a pound of blueberries. This is what this looks like. And because blueberries typically are not very tart, I like to add just a little bit of lemon juice on top. And I simply pour the lemon juice right over the blueberries here. Now I told you that depending on what type of fruit you're using, you may have to adapt a little bit or add a little bit more ingredients. When I was making plum cake, if you've ever been to Germany, Streuselkuchen is a very popular dish. Plum Streuselkuchen or plum crumb cake. That's a real mouthful. The Germans use prunes, which typically stay a little bit firmer during the baking. If you use American plums, they get very soft and they can make your crumb cake a little bit soggy. If you don't mind that, then you just use the recipe as it is. If you would like something to soak up the fruit juices that will come out during the baking process, you can either add some oat flakes, regular flour, cornstarch, anything to just soak up the fruit juices a little bit. If you're making a plum cake, at this point it would be fantastic to add cinnamon to the streusel, the crumb topping. I'm not going to do that for the blueberries because I think that cinnamon works better for plums. And then you simply crumble the remaining dough over the blueberries. And you can leave that in very big crumbs or break it up in smaller pieces. And we'll go ahead and bake this at 350 degrees for anywhere from 40 to 55 minutes. And here is the finished blueberry crumb cake, Heidelbeer Streuselkuchen in German. It is super buttery and crunchy on top. I actually let it sit in the oven just a bit longer to brown it on top, which looks really nice, but it would have been done before then. And as you can see, this is such an easy recipe because you're using the same batter or dough for both the bottom and the crumb topping. So it's a one bowl type of preparation. Comes together really quick, really easy, and it's very versatile. You can use whatever fruit you like and make a very delicious crumb cake. Now, if you like this recipe, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new on my channel, it always means the world to me if you hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you never miss another video. Also, I always love it if you leave all your comments and questions below this video, and especially if you have any questions or suggestions. Other viewers can read it and you can engage and we can all learn from one another. So that's why I love reading your comments so that I can know what works for you and what doesn't, or your experience. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen, and see you in the next video.